Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the North Park Youth Podcast. Today we have David and Josh with us to talk about their sermons from last night. Say hi, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
So last night we closed out our February series on love, sex, and dating. So Josh finished up with talking about the More of the Story series, and David did his sermon from the Awkward series. So do you guys want to maybe just give a quick summary? Josh, we'll start with you, just about what you talked about last night.
Yeah, and quickly I'll say that this is the second time we're recording this because I forgot to record before, but I'm going to be quicker because I was like 5 minutes last time, but here it goes. I was closing off the More to the Story teaching series for our high school students. It was week 4, and it was just this really great week to recap and wrap up our series, specifically talking about how Jesus wants more for our story. And so we kind of took a look at 2 major themes. The first was that everyone has different opinions about everything in life, including sex, right? We started off the teaching time talking about these questions like, do you prefer what's your favorite French fry in London? Who has the best French fries? Or what's the best Netflix show on right now? Or what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And we kind of talked about this and realized that there are a bunch of different opinions, and everyone seems to think that their opinion is the correct one. And so we talked about how that's always going to be the case with most things in life, but in that includes sex, right? And so we hear different things from people all around us, whether they attend church or don't attend church, all these different people. And what we realized is that we need to look to Jesus because he wants the best for our story, right? And so we talked about John 10:10, the thief comes to kill and destroy, but Jesus wants to have life and have it to the full. We talked a little bit about the word thief and about how that kind of relates to a con artist or someone who just wants the best for themselves rather than for the other, whereas we know that Jesus wants the best for us. And so we need to think about that, again, in all areas of our life, but especially when it comes to sex.
Yeah, there were some really great points in your message last night. I feel like we were talking about it in my small group afterwards, and there's really just been a lot of good reminder points, I feel like, all throughout the series. Like, we were saying there may not have been necessarily very much new information that we learned, but like a lot of it was stuff that you don't think about on a regular basis. So it's just good to kind of reinforce it and have you be like, oh, interesting. Like it makes you stop and think, which is really good. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was really good. David, do you want to kind of share what you talked about last night?
Yeah, so we finished off week number 4 of the Awkward series. And this week was very much, we looked at the tension between what relationships look like on social platforms and in movies and TVs, and then what's the reality of the relationships around us, right? And how so often growing up, we're shown these perfect scenarios of perfect relationships, and we want to aspire for those, and we have these ideas that, everything's amazing and perfect, and then the reality, though, the world that we live in and the relationships that we're in with our friends and our parents, or the relationships we see between our parents, those aren't perfect. And the idea that instead of trying to work on having the perfect relationship, we need to work on ourselves internally. And so we took a look through 1 Corinthians and the chapter of love, right? And those attributes of love. And the whole idea last night was focusing on ourselves, focusing on becoming these attributes of love ourselves personally before focusing on finding love. And so I think it was a really cool shift. So often we're always looking, we want to find the perfect person out there, but hey, what happens if we flip this on its head, look internally and say, okay, what are these attributes of love that Paul writes, that God calls, love is patient and kind and long suffering and all these things. What happens if we focus on those internally first, before worrying about next steps? So I think it's perfect because we're junior high, right? Some of us are getting into relationships, but a lot of us are like, we're not allowed to date or not really interested in dating yet. So this is something that's really practical to do right now, before maybe we hit the high school age and after.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love the points too that you said at the beginning about how there's a huge kind of difference between the relationships that are shown on media and then the relationships you have in real life, and how those expectations can be really harmful. I think that's a really, really interesting point as well. So for anybody who hasn't yet seen the junior high or the high school teaching, you can go and check those out on YouTube. Now they're up. They will be up forever. So feel free to go check those out. Yeah, so we've covered a lot of really, really interesting topics throughout the past month. So I have a bit of like a recap, kind of summary question for you both.
Mhm.
If you could kind of think back to yourself when you were in high school or junior high, what
Hmm.
is one thing or a couple of things that you wish you knew about these topics when you were those ages? And maybe Josh, we'll start with you again.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one of those questions where it's like there's a million things that I think, and I'm actually really proud of us at North Park for talking about a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, because my kind of the thing that I was thinking about, what I wish that I knew was, I wish that I knew that it didn't need to be awkward or casual talking about sex growing up, right? I kind of had both
Hmm.
ends of the spectrum where it was really awkward to talk about sex with my family and with, my church circles. But then it was really casual to talk about sex kind of in the other areas of my life, whether it was at school or on my baseball team. It was just kind of like a normal thing to talk about. And, but it wasn't like we weren't talking about it in like a really good way. You know what I mean? So it was like
Okay.
awkward, but maybe good, kind of good, or casual and kind of sucky. And so I wish that I knew that there was a middle ground there where we could have really healthy conversations like we're having now, healthy conversations about, yeah, like what David talked about, like making sure that we're prepared to be the best people that we can possibly be for, that person in our life, or again, recognizing that Jesus does want the best for us, and that includes sex, right? These are really good things.
Hmm.
And so again, I just kind of wish that I knew that we could have those conversations and they could be healthy and they didn't need to be awkward. I still don't know why there's this like awkward feeling when it comes to talking about sex, but hopefully, again, as we talk about it and as we make it an important conversation, hopefully it will become less awkward and less casual and really intentional and healthy. So, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And David?
Yeah, I think the things that I wish I knew back then, a lot of it came around, I think, focuses around
Mm,
patience.
Hmm.
And I I remember being interested in a girl in grade 8 a little bit, and I had no idea how to interact or talk with girls, right? And then my first, I think, relationship was in grade 10 or somewhere around there. And a lot of the time it was because everyone was doing it, right? Your friends were dating, your friends were talking to girls, and so just to fit in and feel normal, I chased these relationships that were I learned through them, but they were basically meaningless at
mm.
that time too. And I don't want to call relationships meaningless because I have a lot of friends that met in high school that are now married. But for me at that time, it was like it was just to be popular, right? And so I think I wish I knew like someone would go, hey, David, just be patient and focus on. There's a lot of things in life that a lot of things are changing and growing at that time. So I wish I had a little bit of a longer vision ahead, but. I think when I'm a teenager, it's hard to do that, right? It's hard to think long
I
term.
wonder if we can turn this podcast into just hearing more about David's background in dating and relationships. I
We have a
think,
dating advice segment by
yeah,
David.
yeah, we would get many, many views and many listens. Marlene might
Oh
not
no.
be too happy though, so we'll stay away from that one today.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, guys, and sharing your thoughts and sharing a little bit about what you talked about last night. Yeah, it was great to hear, and I'm super excited to start the next series. Our next series we start next week. It's on discipleship. It's going to be great.
Hmm.
So make sure you tune into our YouTube channels. Junior highs, make sure you're coming to our junior high Sunday mornings. We meet on Zoom and hang out and have a great time. So yeah, and we'll see you
Yeah.
next week otherwise. So thanks for tuning in, guys.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye.
Perfect. Thanks. Bye.